Okay, so today I'm going to talk about how we're moving forward with this project and the steps that we're going to take as we work through this project. And I've already taken your photo, and we are going to be gridding our photo at 1 inch intervals. And then we're going to be enlarging our photo or image 1.5 times, which means we're going to be taking 1 to 1.5 inches. So it's going to be 1.5 times the scale. So if I wanted to do this 2 times the size, right, it would be 1 inch would equal 2 inches, right? So it'd be twice the size of this. So this is going to be, this is 16, no, less than 16 wide. But if it was twice as large, it'd be 16 wide by 20, but we're not going that large. So my first step is I gridded my image. And as you can see, I've started drawing my face into the squares by using grids. All right, so I'm just following along my grid. And first of all, I created a contour line on the outside, and then I started going in and adding more details. And you notice what I'm looking for are shapes, right? So I'm looking like my hair, I'm looking for shapes that are created through values. So that's a shape, and then I was kind of like looking at my hair and how it's in segments. I was also looking at light and shadows on my face, so on and so forth. We're going to talk more about that as we move forward, but right now we're just looking at gridding. All right, so we're going to do this together. I'm going to flip this paper over. We're not going to be using the entire paper, but we are going to be, let's see, I went down to 10. Okay, so we're going to be gridding this paper. So I'm just going to flip it over and talk about how we do this. It's very, very simple. All right, first step is you have your ruler, and we're going to make tick marks. So tick marks are just little dots. All right, little dots. I have a mechanical pencil and I have an eraser. You're going to need an H. Okay, if you haven't, just a 2H, that's fine. One of your standard pencils, that is okay too. But we don't want anything dark, because once we draw our lines across, you can see my lines here, we don't want them too dark. Okay, this will eventually get painted over, so they more than likely won't show anyway, but we still don't want our lines dark because we don't want them to show through, okay? But you can still see them, right? All right, so let's get started. Okay, so our first measurement is going to be 1.5. So I'm going to make a little tick mark along the edge. All right, the next one will be 3. The next one is 4.5. The next one is 6. The next one is 7.5. The next one is 9. The next one is 10.5. After that will be 12. All right, I'm going to slide my ruler down and continue on. All right, so now we're back to 1.5, then 3, then 4.5. Okay, we're going to stop there. Again, it's too many, but we're just going to go ahead and grid the paper. Now I'm going to move my ruler down to the other side and line it up at the 0. Make sure you're lined up at the right place on your ruler, not using possibly the end of it, which will throw off your measurements. All right, again, we've got 1.5, then 3, 4.5, then 6, 7.5, then 9, 10.5, then 12, sliding my ruler down, 1.5, 3, 4.5, and now I'm at the end. Okay, now we're going to turn our paper this way, okay, and my ruler will reach across. I'm just going to use it. I have to stand up so I can see across. What you want to do is line it up so that your pencil marks, or your pencil tip, is right on the edge of each tick mark. All right, so now it's lined up. And I'm drawing on top of my ruler. I don't have my ruler like this. I'm not drawing underneath it. That's so much harder to draw a straight line. This is a proper way of drawing a straight line. It's on top of your ruler. And I'm not going to press hard. I'm just going to go across. Here's my first line. And actually, I'm going to lighten up the next line. It's a little too dark. And you see I'm just sliding my paper up so that I'm drawing my line on top of my ruler. I'm just going to go ahead and grid the entire paper, even though I'm not going to use it all. You can use the bottom portion, or if you're doing your portrait landscape versus portrait style, maybe it's going to be on a side, and then you can use that area for testing colors. So that's kind of nice to have that little extra paper. All right, so there we go. Now I'm going to tick mark the top. All right, so now we're back to 1.5, then 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, 10.5, and now we're at the end. Flip my paper over. Again, I'm lining up my ruler so it's right at 0. So 1.5, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5, 9, 10.5. All right. Now you're going to have to use a longer ruler. So one of the longer, like the 18-inch ones now, to go all the way across. Don't try to piece this across. That's just too much. It takes too much time. Plus you'll have lines that are all over the place. I'm using a longer ruler. I'm actually using a yardstick, but we have 18-inch rulers. So I'm going to, again, lining up those tick marks so that my pencil will touch it. So it's touching there. It's touching there. So again, I'm going to draw a line. And again, you notice I'm drawing on top of the ruler, right? Again, lining up, drawing my line. Lining up, drawing my line. And there we have it. So getting started, what I like to do is number my grids. And if you notice, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oops, there we go, 10. So I'm going to number across really lightly as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have my 1 there, so I'm going to move down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's as far as you need to go because we're only going to the edge here at 10, right? So here's some extra space. You can either cut it off or whatever you want to do if you don't want to get confused. And then from there, what I like to do is do contour, so the outside edge. So looking at the top of my head, I'm going to go, this is at 1. Move over, I've got a little bit in 3. So I'm going to get that little edge there. I have parts of my hair that kind of goes through 4. It goes into 5, and I kind of like to use my finger to plot my way. It goes into 6. Now it's going into 6, 2. So here's 6, 2. And it goes over here and down to here, and that kind of goes over there. So you get the idea, right? Do your outside edges first, okay? And then start to go in and do your details. Again, don't make your lines too dark because in case you make a mistake, you can erase it. Another thing I like to do is if I'm not quite sure, like eyes are sometimes challenging, I like to take the square and divide it again. So I'll go this way and this way. Now I can get a little bit more precise in the location of things. So in this case, my eyes are 4, 4, or the one eye, 4, 4, and I'm going to divide that square. And I'm just kind of literally eyeballing it. Okay, and now I see that the bottom of my eye is kind of halfway through that square, and then it goes over to there, and it's really on the top of that line there, and then it goes down over here, and then there. All right, and then you can just get a better idea of where things are located. We tend to always want to make things larger than they really are. And so again, this helps you kind of scale a little bit better and faster. There we go. All right, so that's the start. All right, have fun.